What is going on, YouTube? Welcome to yet another episode of the MMA Show. Thank you guys for tuning in once again. I really appreciate you all. If you're new here, well, welcome. I hope that you guys enjoy the content. Don't forget, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, and go ahead and leave me a comment, man. Let me know how you guys are feeling, how you guys are doing today. It is a beautiful Tuesday here in the Midwest of the country. Really hot. I mean, summer is, you can tell, is starting to kick in. I'm located in Kansas City, by the way. If you are from Kansas City or around Kansas City, shout out. But yeah, it's starting to get really fucking hot, and most likely it's not going to get, it's probably just going to get hotter from here. It's July and August are terrible hot months over here in the Midwest, and I'm sure in other places too, man. But yeah, we have a lot to talk about, a lot to discuss today. We have a fight night coming up this Saturday, free fight night, which is nice. I always love when we have a big hype fight night, not because I feel like all the time the big numbered UFCs are obviously what everybody watches, and they're the main viewers, not the casuals, I would say. Watch the main numbered big UFC pay-per-views. But whenever there's a big fight night, sometimes it goes unnoticed, because they're smaller, they don't do a lot of more marketing for them, obviously. A lot of the times they're at the apex with no audience or little audience. So they're not the same. Obviously, if you're a casual, you might not watch those as much. But if you're into the UFC, then you love fight nights. Because sometimes that's where the bread and butter is, man. That's where contenders are fighting that are coming up that are maybe not so well known. And every once in a while, we would have, some dude or someone doing some crazy shit on the fight nights, and then from there just explodes into pay-per-views and shit like that. Not the fight night we were hoping for, I will say that, because it was supposed to be Robert Whittaker versus Khamzat Chimaev. Unfortunately, Khamzat is, for what we heard, really ill, really sick, not doing so good. I've not my words, but I've seen as far people saying that his career might be in danger, because he is that sick. He's always a guy that had health issues. During COVID, I heard that he got COVID and just like it hit him really bad, like me, for example, I got COVID and I was sick for like 2 days and that was it. I knew people that got COVID and got sick for longer, for weeks and on. And I guess for him, it was a really bad. I don't want to speak too much on it because I don't know all the facts, but I just know that he was violently ill back then. He is violently ill right now. So I'm not sure what's going on, man. I actually haven't done a ton of research on what exactly his condition is. Let's see what it says here. Khamzat Chimaev released his first statement after withdrawal. From Robert Whittaker fight. Blah, blah, blah. So he released a photo of him on a quad, on a field somewhere. Oh, in Chechnya. And he says, "We always plan something, but Allah has his own plans for us. Alhamdulillah." Not much of a statement, right? I don't know exactly what is wrong with him. Maybe someone already broke it down. Maybe Ariel Helwani or somebody already broke it down, like exactly what is wrong with him. There's another tweet from Aaron Bronstetter. Khamzat Chimaev's bout with Robert Whittaker was his fifth scheduled main event. Every time Chimaev has had a main event scheduled, it has been canceled. Wow, that's a crazy fact. Every time Chimaev has had a main event scheduled, it has been canceled. So Khamzat literally cannot make it to main events. Like, it's crazy, bro. It's wild. I'm not able to see anything about why. Like, it just says illness. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not exactly sure why, like, what's wrong with him health-wise, but I hope it's okay, man. And I hope that these things that I'm hearing about his future being in danger is it's not true, because Khamzat is a guy that has a lot of hype. I wish, during these past 3 years, I really wish he would have fought more. Like, he really does not fight that often. So that in itself has been a little unfortunate. And now this, now hopefully he's able to come back in the near future, obviously get better. But in his place, we have Ikram Aliskerov, who is going to be taking over, fighting Robert Whittaker. Great opportunity for him. And there were, Dana White said that they asked everybody in the division who wanted to take that fight. And I heard Ikram was the only guy that wanted it. I think some people came out, like, for example, Bo Nickel came out and said that he got the fight offered, but that I forget why he didn't take it, but it wasn't. I think he was injured right now or has had surgery or something like that. I'm not sure. I'll have to go check, but it's the fight that we got. So it is what it is. It's it's gonna be hopefully a good fight as far as skill set. Both guys super dangerous. Ikram is obviously Russian, so heavy wrestling, style. Robert, though, he does have good wrestling. We just don't see it that often, but he's a great striker. So it should be interesting. I talked last week about how Robert really should have just, I guess, maybe just not fought. But it makes sense that he stayed. And because other than that, to find another replacement for this main event, I don't think it was worth it for the UFC. And if you cancel this main event, now your main event is Sergey Pavlovich versus Alexander Volkov, which it's not a terrible main event, especially for a fight night. But for a big Saudi Arabia night, not a pay-per-view, but for a, trying to impress the Saudis, obviously, Dana White wants some of that Saudi money. It wouldn't have been enough, with just those two guys. No shade to them. Like, that is actually a great fight that I'm looking forward to, big heavyweight dudes that are at the top of the division. But not enough just to be a headliner, So it is what it is, I think having one big name in the main event like Robert is what essentially saved this main event, or this card, whatever you want to call it. Listen, the card itself is actually not bad at all. We really have some good names in here, starting off with the main, Sara Magomedov, or Shara, I don't know how you say his name, the guy with one eye, the Russian. He's headlining the prelims, which is kind of crazy because this is his second UFC fight. And he is headlining the prelims. So shout out, man. Good for him. He's fighting a guy with no picture in the UFC website, Joelton Lucherbach. I don't even know if he has no record in the UFC. So that guy is probably making his UFC debut in the main event of the prelims. So, shout out. I hope Shara is able to, or I don't know how to say his name, Shara or Sara, but Magomedov. If your last name is Magomedov and you're Russian and you have a beard, like, good luck facing those guys, bro. Like, there's no way those guys are undefeated. That camp is undefeated. And then to start off the main card, we do have Johnny Walker versus Volkan Ozdemir. Johnny Walker, phenomenal fighter, fun guy to watch. He did have that loss against Jamal Hill, and then he did have those couple of, I would say, like, awkward fights against Ankalaev. The first one, I believe, was he didn't lose the first one. I think it was a what do they call them? And not a doctor stoppage, right? I don't know what it was. Let's see. On the UFC website, it just says could not continue. So, it was just whatever. I don't want to say, it's not a draw, but I'm blanking off the name of what it is. I know what it is. I'm just blanking on it. But no contest. It's a no contest. And then he fought again against Ankalaev and got KO'd. So that is unfortunate. And I believe that fight also maybe got rescheduled once again after the first one and then rescheduled. So, however, before that, he was been on a couple of tears. Like, he defeated Anthony Smith, no punk. So he went on a couple of wins after he got knocked out by Hill. But Hill, Hill is a savage, bro, former champ. So if you get knocked out by Jamal Hill, it's okay. The knockout, though, was pretty fucking vicious. But hey, look, you get knocked out by a former champ. or at the time he wasn't a former champ, but now he's a former champ. You get knocked out by a champ, and then you go on a win streak, and that's great. And then you have a couple of rough nights against Ankalaev. So this is an opportunity for Johnny to get back up at the queue. You know what I mean? He got right there. He was getting really close to scratching the surface of a potential championship opportunity, of a number one contender fight. But he went back. And now he's fighting a guy that's ranked number 9. But yeah, I think this should be an opportunity for him to go out and, wow everybody and say, hey, motherfuckers, I'm still here. I haven't gone nowhere. Yes, I had a few losses, but I'm still here. So I hope that he can do that, because if now you lose against ranked number 9, dude, it's not good. You know what I mean? You're going backwards. You're going backwards when you're supposed to be going forward. Volkan, he's from Switzerland. I do not know a lot about him. Johnny's opponent. He won his last fight, lost before that, lost to Johnny Walker. Lost to Ankalaev, and then lost to Prohaska. So he's fought some dogs, and he also fought. They share a few opponents, so they share Ankalaev, Paul Craig. Also, they both fought Paul Craig and Yuri Prohaska. Sure. Let me see here. He got knocked. He didn't get knocked out by Yuri Prohaska, did he? Oh yeah, he did get knocked out. Oof, in the round 2. That's tough. But yeah, I mean, a few wins, a few losses here and there. If he's able to get past someone like Johnny, that's great, because Johnny's a big name, and now you will be able to be higher in the division. Probably not there just yet as far as fighting for a belt goes, but you're getting closer and closer. But I'm really looking forward to this fight. I don't know a lot about Volkan, unfortunately, so I cannot really speak to the stylistics of this fight. But I think I'm betting Johnny Walker to win this fight. And yeah, the next fight that's fun here, it's Kelvin Gastelum versus D-Rod. It's a pretty interesting fight. I'm looking forward to that one. Both guys really, really pros and veterans of the sport, especially Kelvin, man. He's been doing it for a hot second. He was at the top of the division for a while until, unfortunately he had that loss against Adesanya, and ever since then it's been a little rocky, which, by the way, Adesanya, we'll talk about it here in a sec. He obviously had a fight announced, which is crazy, that he's coming back, which is, great news. But yeah, this fight should be really, really fun. Kelvin Gastelum versus D-Rod, Daniel Rodriguez. D-Rod also a dog, by the way. I mean, he's a little bit older in age. I think he's almost 40. But the guy's a dog, and also fought the who's who of that division. So this should be a fun matchup. Then we have the heavyweight matchup, Sergey Pavlovich versus Alexander Volkov. I'm really, really curious right now what's the state of the heavyweight division, because we have John Jones, we have an interim champion in Tom Aspinall, who's fighting here pretty soon as well. But the John Jones has been in limbo, because obviously he was supposed to fight Stipe. He got injured, was out, they said, for about 8 months. We're still waiting on news and updates for that, but we haven't gotten anything. So hopefully we do get something. But the fights have to keep going. So this is a really fun matchup. Both guys knockout artists. I will be surprised if this fight goes the distance. I mean, both of these guys are insane knockout artists. Sergey Pavlovich coming off of a loss against Tom Aspinall for the interim title. Tom Aspinall was giving him his flowers when it came to his knockout power, and Tom Aspinall was saying that he was, in a healthy way, like scared of this guy. I mean, bro, look at him. He's a big Russian motherfucker. He looks like the type of Russian in movies that, like the hitman Russian, like if we're watching like a mobster movie or something, like this is the guy that they send to do a hit job or something. Like, this guy is scary. But yeah, both guys knockout artists. I don't know who really is going to win. I mean, I'm surprised if this fight goes the distance, but we have number 3 versus number 5. Alexander Volkov has also a really impressive record. Both guys share a win over Taito Ibasa. Volkov also holds a win over Rosinio Rosenstruck. Both of guys also lost. Sorry, I'm getting a call. Both guys also lost against Tom Aspinall. That's interesting. I didn't know that. And then before that, he also lost against Cyril Gane. So, here's the thing in the heavyweight division. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that the heavyweight division is not as deep in numbers, like fighters, as other divisions, right? So, yes, he is on a little bit of a win streak right now. He has won 1, 2, 3 in a row. But before that, he lost two. He lost to Tom Aspinall and to Cyril Gane, and then there's a few more losses on his record before that. My point is that the heavyweight division is not as deep, so that you are able to almost take a few losses in your career, and then you will eventually get to a opportunity where you're fighting someone with a big ranking, with a big name, and then you could potentially do something with that. You know what I mean? It's not like it's not like the lightweight divisions that's just fucking deep and deep and deep, and you really have to hold your position and move forward. If not, you get left behind. So, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's what happens in the heavyweight division. You see guys with not that impressive of a record getting good opportunities. And I'm not saying his record is, I'm not talking about him specifically, but I'm just saying in general. But yeah, he's also been doing it for a minute. Now that I'm looking at his record, like it just keeps going. It just keeps and keeps going. So yeah, this is a guy that, again, he's been doing it for a while. And then, yeah, couple recent, he defeated, his most recent one was Taito Ibasa. That's the most impressive win recently. Before that, it was Rosenstruck. So yeah. And then, but again, lost to Tom Aspinall, which is fine. Like I said, losing to someone of that high level is crazy. I still think Sergey is going to pull up the win. I think this is the first fight that I made a prediction. Let me go back. I'll predict Johnny Walker, and then I'll predict Kelvin Gastelum, and then I'll predict Sergey Pavlovich. How? Johnny Walker by decision, Kelvin Gastelum by decision, Sergey Pavlovich by knockout. And then the main event, Robert Whittaker versus Ikram. I do really think Robert can take the dub on this, being the more experienced guy, being the vet, in the division. However, it is a tough position where you're facing an opponent that's not the guy you were preparing for. He spends a big chunk of his camp preparing for Khamzat. Now, the style is similar, but it's not the same, bro. Like, just because Khamzat is a wrestler and Ikram is also a wrestler, it doesn't mean that it's the same style. Like, yeah, it helps that you were preparing for a wrestler, but also, it's not the same thing because they're both different. I don't know how to explain it. They're both different. However, one thing that I talked about last week is that it's impressive that Ikram is getting a shot at a former champ, a big name like Robert Whittaker, when he's only had 2 fights in the UFC, and both fights won by KO. So just because someone's Russian and they have a beard does not mean they're purely wrestlers, okay? Yes, his wrestling might be great because, obviously they're just built different over there, man. They are so strong in a top position, and they're just so hard to get off from underneath. But both of his wins in the UFC so far have been by KO. So, Robert better watch out, bro. Robert better watch out. And if he's able to get past Robert Whittaker in style, now you're off to the races, you're in the top of the division, and you are going to fight some big names like, I don't know, like Sean Strickland, or like there's also a guy like Marvin Vettori. Yeah, and then obviously we did get announced Izzy versus DDP. I guess let me just complete the fight night and then I'll move on to that. So yeah, that is the fight night. For that one, I do predict Whittaker to win by knockout. I'm going to say round 3. Round 3 knockout by Robert Whittaker, or submission. Let me just say finish. Robert Whittaker finish by round 3. That's what I call, and I'll be putting money on that. So yeah, that is the fight night. Again, not what we wanted, not what was promised, but overall, it's okay. It works. We do have 2 more fights to talk about that got announced in the past couple of days. The first one is Israel Adesanya went ahead and posted on his Instagram that he will be coming back later this year to fight Dricus du Plessis. I believe in Perth, Australia, is the Perth card. I think it's in August or September. I don't know. Could be completely wrong, by the way, but let me check. UFC 305. Oh, August 17th, UFC 305. So, there was talks of Izzy or this fight happening for a replacement for Conor Chandler. Now, obviously, we know that that's not the case. And I got to say, the time where Izzy decides to post his post and announce this fight, I think it's impeccable because everybody is watching because of Conor. And then Izzy's like, oh, by the way, here's my fight. And just inserts himself in the conversation and doing a little bit of a catapulting. Not that Izzy needs it. I mean, he's massive enough, on his own. He doesn't need Conor. But I'm just saying the timing I thought was good. He announced this fight at the same time that all the fight chaos was happening with Hamza, Conor, fucking Jamal Hill. There was chaos. And in the middle, Izzy says, here you go, blessed with my announcement. So yeah, that should be a really, really good fight. I think stylistically, it really favors Izzy. Like, I think Izzy will be able to regain his title in this fight. But it is tough because, again, it depends. We've seen 2 sides of Izzy, in the last couple of years. We've seen the hungry Izzy, like the guy that knocked out Alex Pereira. You know what I mean? Like, the dog fights that he had with Vittori, with Whitaker, with Costa. Like, if we get that version of Izzy, I truly believe, I'll put money right now that he will defeat DDP, Especially because, DDP is a great fighter, phenomenal fighter. But stylistically, I think Izzy is able to get past him. Even though DDP technically defeated Sean Strickland, but it was a close fight, whatever. And again, we all know that UFC math doesn't really work. It doesn't work just because DDP defeated Sean and Sean defeated Izzy doesn't mean that he's gonna win automatically, right? I do think that for Izzy, man, it's just really mental, right? However, we have, again, there's other versions of Izzy that we got before, which is like the Sean Strickland fight where he just didn't really come out of his shell the entire fight. The Jared Cannonier fight where essentially he just it wasn't any more action. He just kind of, it was jabbing and that's it. We didn't get much, a few kicks here and there, but not enough action. So it does depend what kind of version of Izzy we get. I do think this is best case scenario for Izzy, right? Because I think if you look at the opponents and the landscape of this division and how it was just last year, top contenders, you had Alex Pereira, who was still there mingling, you know what I mean? I don't think he's gonna go back down, obviously not. But you had him as a possibility, and then you had Sean Strickland as a possibility. So I think DDP is best case scenario because fresh meat. He hasn't fought Izzy yet. He already fought Sean, and Izzy already fought Sean, and also Alex Pereira. But I think it's best case scenario. And like I said, just stylistically speaking, I don't know. I don't want to sound like I'm hating on DDP, but I just think DDP for Izzy will be easier to win than, say, a Sean Strickland or Alex Pereira. Again, if he decided to be at the division, which is not. But I think, again, I'm not saying that DDP is a bad fighter or anything like that. And I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying that there might be some head issues if Izzy steps in there again with, let's say, Sean, or Pereira. You know what I mean? So, like I said, this is best case scenario. Best case scenario. Again, DDP, however, is dangerous. He could pull off the win. You know what I mean? And if he does, that would be fucking insane. But being a little biased in this, I'm definitely aiming towards Izzy. I think he will be able to get it done. I think if he wants to keep this momentum going of greatness that he has, he can get it done. If you're a fan, man, you love comebacks. You know what I mean? If you're a fan of the UFC and Izzy, you love a great comeback, right? Which is why we were all so excited about this Conor comeback. You know, we love a good comeback, but, you know, it is what it is. So that's one fight that got announced. The other fight that got announced was Mike Perry versus Jake Paul. This is not in UFC. This is fight. This is boxing, sorry. I think it's boxing. You know, I would really hope they would do this in UFC. You know, Jake Paul talked all the shit, okay, when he came to UFC and saying that he could do it. He posted videos of him training, kicking, and stuff like that. But he's yet to do anything in MMA, right? Like, bro, if you're gonna fight Mike Perry, who I think is a perfect opponent as far as for MMA, you know, against someone like Jake Paul. And boxing is also, I think Mike Perry is just a good opponent for Jake Paul no matter what, whether it was boxing or MMA. However, I would have liked to see this fight in MMA because I'm a huge MMA fight. And Jake Paul talked all the shit, you know, and I mean, again, someone should really fucking hold her up to their promises because, I mean, he talks shit to, I mean, his brother too. Like every time he fought like an MMA guy like Nate Diaz, Tyron Woodley, they've all said a similar thing. Even when Logan Paul fought Dylan Dennis, they all said the same thing. Yeah, let's fight a boxing match and then fight an MMA fight. And it hasn't happened. It hasn't happened, bro. You can go back and watch the clips. They said it at the one-on-ones. They said it at the press conferences, you know. They talk all this shit. Logan Paul and Dylan Dennis actually shook on it. They said, yeah, let's shake on having first a boxing fight and then an MMA fight, you know? Why did it not happen? So I think Jake Paul, this would have been a great fight for Jake Paul in MMA, you know? Again, Mike Perry is not known for his MMA. He had a UFC record that was okay. You know, he wasn't Mike Perry back then. Like now he's the motherfucking Mike Perry in bare knuckle, you know, in boxing. So I think it's not like you're going against a guy that's, you know, active in MMA that could completely just melt you in a matter of 10 seconds. That's not the case. You're going against a guy that's probably well-trained in MMA, but, you know, not, I guess, I would say like that good. I don't want to say that, please. I don't want to say that he's not that good, but has been mainly focused in boxing, you know, in the past years. So it's a good opponent overall. It's a younger opponent, which is what we've been asking from Jake Paul. So he has given us some of those things that we've been asking for. Now we're getting a younger opponent, a dangerous dude. Mike Perry is a fucking dog, bro. If you're not familiar with Mike Perry, man, go ahead and educate yourself, bro. And his bare knuckle record is insane. Okay, he was actually the backup for Dylan Dennis versus Logan Paul, which is crazy, you know, that he would have fought Logan Paul if Dylan Dennis pulled out, which would have been a really, really bad night for Logan Paul if Mike Perry stepped in. Yeah, amazing boxer. His bare knuckle record goes as follows. Defeated Thiago Alves, Eddie Alvarez. Okay, this is where it gets crazy. Eddie Alvarez, Luke Rockhold, and Michael Page, bro. MVP, who's now in the UFC and doing great. And also Julian Lane. I mean, this guy's a dog, bro. And when it comes to boxing, I watched his interview with Joe Rogan. He was there a while ago. I want to say like last year, maybe. He was talking about how the reason why he's been so successful at bare knuckle is because he kind of figured out that it's slightly different than just boxing, right? Because you have no protection, so you have to throw your punches a little bit different. You know, I'm not saying it's new science that he discovered, but I'm just saying like, okay, it works for him. Mike Perry's a guy that unfortunately did not have a very successful record in the UFC, and then look at that, went to bare knuckle and is a fucking superstar, bro. And I think he's a guy that could do really, really well in this whole, you know, YouTube boxing, you know, because, you know, after Jake Paul, if you're able to get past Jake Paul, all right, well, now you got many, many options. You got Logan Paul, you got fucking you know, the what's the fuck is his name? Logan Paul's partner, fucking KSI, Deji. You know, if you want to count those guys, sure, you know what I mean. But I'm not saying those are big fights stylistically matched, but I'm saying they are big fights money wise. So Mike Perry could be due for getting big paychecks here coming up. But yeah, I think he has a really good shot at getting past Jake Paul. I think Jake Paul, I respect him for taking this fight too, because this is not an easy fight at all. This is not an easy fight at all, bro. This is not like he's fighting a retired MMA guy. This guy is active. This guy is a dog. He likes blood. He likes to make people bleed. He doesn't give a fuck if he's hurt, if his nose is broken. He doesn't give a fuck, bro. He'll still come at you and try to knock you out, which I think it's how this fight's going to end, boys. I think if I'm making an official prediction right now, is Mike Perry by KO. I want to say mid-rounds. Like, I think, and again, Mike Perry needs to use his tools to his advantage. He needs to use his experience to his advantage. Like, you know, let Jake Paul gas out. Like, outbox him in that matter. You know what I mean? Like, use your experience where you're kind of baiting him until he gasses out, you know, and then mid-fight you're able to come in and get the job done. You know, I think if Mike Perry plays his cards really well, you know, it sounds easier said than done, obviously. I mean, Jake Paul is still an experienced boxer, still trained boxer, so it's not like it's going to be super easy to get past him. But I'm excited. I'm excited for this fight because I'll tell you what, I am not a Jake Paul hater, despite what you might think. I do want to see him fight some crazy opponents. Like, yeah, if he can eventually get to like fighting like a McGregor or something like that, that's great. Like, I'm just a fan of fighting in general. You know what I mean? And I think I respect anybody that's willing to step into a ring or an octagon and fight it out with somebody. I think that's great. Yeah, what I didn't respect as much is that for the longest, he was fighting older dudes, retired dudes that had no business, you know, being in there, that had barely a training camp. You know what I mean? And yeah, that's, and then he went to the route of like fighting a couple of nobody's ever heard of guys before, you know, like, and not even ranked guys, like just sounds bad, but just nobody. Sounds bad, but he had 2 fights that were just like, what? Who are they? And why are you fighting them? They're not ranked. They're not, you know, nobody. So like, what? It just seemed kind of odd. And it's okay. I mean, you know, he wanted to get the reps in, you know, and that's okay. I respect that too. But I think this is the type of fights that we've been wanting. You know, guys that are younger, guys that are active, not retired, guys that are in shape, guys that are actually dangerous, guys that are actually, you know, guys that. This is the first fight. Okay, this is legitimately the first fight that Jake Paul has had that I'm able to see. Okay, I can see him get knocked out. Because, dude, I mean, Anderson Silva, as much as I think he's a great fighter and a great boxer, I don't think he had the power to knock out Jake Paul. Same with Nate Diaz, older, you know, cardio, but not power. Who else? I mean, Ben Askren was never, you know, fucking, the only one that got close was Tyron Woodley, who wobbled him really bad against the ropes, but that was also a while ago. Tyron Woodley was another dude that he was a great option as far as he was a little younger, right? He wasn't fucking 40-year-old, but he was retired, and he was never like, I don't know, I guess as you put it, boxing versus boxing, like Mike Perry will probably beat the shit out of Tyron Woodley, you know what I mean, in a boxing match. So yeah, that's kind of how I'm basing it off. But this is the first opponent that I think legitimately has a shot of not only defeating, but at knocking out Jake Paul. Because other than that, I mean, the only other fighter he lost to was Tommy Fury, you know? It was by decision. So again, Tommy Fury did not also knock him out. So there's that. But yeah, this should be a pretty interesting fight. And what I was talking about last week too is that I hate waiting a long ass time in between fights. This is at the end of July. So that's perfect. That's in literally like a month and a half, you know? Especially after the Mike Tyson fight got fucking rescheduled for like 5 months, which is fucking insane. Like at that point, just fucking cancel the fight, bro. So yeah, I'm excited for this fight. It's coming up soon, and then, you know, After that, we're going to have Izzy fighting, mid-August. So that's fucking insane. Let's go. Not mid-August. I think it's early August, right? Yeah. August 7th. Yeah, mid-August. August 17th. That should be a good couple of weeks for fighting. Yeah. Well, I guess that is really all for today, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. I really, really appreciate you guys. And yeah, catch you guys on the next one. Peace.